Hi, it's Court, and this is the third part of my little mini tutorial series, and I'm going to be continuing along directly with the videos that have preceded this. And I'm going to show you how you can use FM synthesis and the techniques we've already learned to create some pretty cool neuro bass patch synth type sounds. Something like you'd hear in a Cohen Sound song, a Kill the Noise song, a Skrillex song. Regardless of what you think of those guys' music, they're pretty good at patching instruments, and we should try to learn with our ears from them. So let's just kind of jump into it. That's the sound we made last tutorial, or I guess we finished last tutorial. And all we're going to do is we're just going to sample it to audio. And before that, we're just going to draw in some interesting curves. So let's make a little yoi curve. And what does that sound like? Alright, little known feature, somehow, that as of Ableton 9.1, you can click off to the left of these curves, and you've always been able to sort of adjust them all together like this. But if you hold Alt while you click off to the left, you can make them into continuous curves, which happens to be really useful for making yoi basses because you want the oi to drop off very quickly. There we go, sounds about right. So I'm going to freeze this, and I'm going to turn this into audio. Cool, sounds about right. I want this to be like a little bit shorter, honestly, just because it just sounds kind of long for a yoi. Alright, that sounds better. Now I'm going to drop in an instance of sampler. And to illustrate what I'm going to be doing with sampler, I'm going to teach you just a little tiny bit about FM synthesis. So FM synthesis is basically when you take one wave and you modulate the pitch of another wave by the phase of the original wave, or combination of the phase and the amplitude. So basically, I'm going to demonstrate this using this LFO. So this LFO can be used in Operator to create FM basses. If you didn't know it, the rate is just the pitch at which this wave is oscillating at, and I'm going to feed it into wave A. So it's modulating the pitch. And as I turn it up, you get interesting distortion type effects because you're smearing harmonics. All right, let's get away from the LFO and let's get to these kind of musically pitched instruments. So if we take a triangle wave, which is just sort of the common type of wave people tend to feed in, you can get these kind of interesting wubby noises. But we can feed a wave into the triangle wave. And for example, if we feed it in at a very high harmonic, that's a doubled multiple of our bass pitch, you can get these interesting yoi sounds. And you can mess around with patching those kind of things on your own if you'd like. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do, but we're going to get away from that. I just kind of wanted to show you the very fundamentals of how FM synthesis works. All right, so I don't know if everybody knew this, but when you... Whoop, it's still... There we go. There is an FM synthesizing module within Sampler. So if you click under Oscillator, you can move this to Triangle. There we go. Cool little FM synthesizing module. It gives you really interesting timbres because you can basically take a wave that you've sampled and you can drop it in here and you can add FM synthesis to give it some interesting harmonics. But we're going to get away from this for a second because we're going to be building a complex patch and we need a sub. I tend to use just the same sound I'm working with for subs, just low pass, because I think it tends to preserve some harmonics interesting. Sometimes I'll build subs if I'm doing a different style, but in sort of a neuro style where I'm doing layering and want the sub to follow the pitch, this is how I tend to do it. So I'm going to take auto filter, I'm going to drop in an instance of it, I'm going to low pass this, and oops, I meant to transpose this down an octave. That's cool, sounds kind of subby. This channel sounds kind of quiet. All right, cool. So now I can duplicate it. And I'm going to name this Harmonic 1. There we go. Turn this into a high pass filter. And let's start experimenting with this. So kind of already know what I'm going to be doing. Let's see, I'll take a second one, name this one Harmonic 2. Right. So now I have some interesting things going on. I'd like to kind of bring out, so on an auto filter, there's a little resonance spike. We call it the Q, which stands for quality factor, because as you feed filter back into itself, you get a steeper curve right here, which provides for a steeper cutoff. But since there's also a bump because it's analog modeled, you get these weird harmonics that get picked out. But anyway, they have an interesting sound to them. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to start drawing my automation. And let's see, E. Here we go, auto filter, frequency. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the video, but hold on, actually. For reference, I'm resampling everything at 96K. I do that so I get less signal degradation, but if you're sort of following along and you're getting a lot of signal degradation, that's probably why you should turn up your resampling rate, even if it's just for little sections at a time as you bounce things to audio. But continuing. So now I have some interesting stuff going on. I happen to think that the resonance is a little bit high, especially on this guy. So I'm going to do one of those kind of things, and then on the other guy, you know, well, I guess I'll do like, oops, maybe one of these kind of things. All right, that sounded pretty cool. Got some interesting stuff going on there. And for the second part, so I'm going to be building a multi-band distortion unit. Most people have access to things like Homicide or Saturn or whatever, but I just wanted to show people that you don't really need those plugins. You can just do things from within Ableton, and that's like I feel like that's something that doesn't get talked about enough, that you don't really need expensive plugins to do interesting things, especially if you're kind of smart about how you do your sound design. So here I am building a little multi-band grouping. So I have like low, medium, and high, and I'm just doing this through EQ3. And so if I mute one, it cuts out the highs. This is isolating the mids. So I'm going to leave my bass relatively undistorted, and I'm going to bring in some of these hot tape saturators because they just sound great. So maybe like hot tubes on this one, hot driven tape on this one. Kind of add some spiciness to this. And then I'm just going to bring in an instance of EQ8 so I can kind of pull out my favorite things about this sound and add some more bass. So there are all kinds of interesting things going on there. But what we're going to do is we're just going to freeze this again, having literally no fear, and then we're going to flatten it. Got some cool things going on there. And we're just going to restart the process from the top. So let's just take this and let's adjust it a different way. Let's add some like granularness to this. So we'll go. Texture maybe. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in another audio track, and I am going to set this to record, if it wants to. Let's see. No, this is not how I want to do it. I'm going to set this into resampling, and I'm going to record this. Let's retry this one more time. So that's all interesting. I'm gonna pop this out, bam, press play. Let's stretch this back. So now we have all these like interesting sounds we can layer in. So I can, for example, Control E, pull this off, take this, Control F, bam, do something. Maybe just create another audio track. So let's take like this part, Control E, Control F, control these curves. Let's layer that in, and this one's kind of sharp, so I'm going to turn it down a little. And then maybe like delete this, and then what did this one sound like? Yeah, cool. So insert like another audio track, pull this guy out, Control E. Mess with the fades again, pull this guy up. All right, and then let's insert an audio track down here. And let's put the input to resampling. And then let's put it to record. All right, cool. And then let's take an instance of sampler. There it is. Pull it in here, pull this guy down. Move the start to the correct place. Turn up the volume. Now let's just delete all these guys because we don't really need them anymore. Let's pull in this thing again. Let's take an EQ8. And holy shit, look at this, we finally have our vowel bass. Now, how long did this take? Like 15 minutes of just resampling and just bussing in audio and then just dropping it into samplers and just layering and using all these interesting different techniques. Kind of the point of making this video is that there are a million ways to get to a vowel bass, but if you're patient and you have your little bottle of soda and you're kind of interested in sound design and you're interested in making interesting basses and you really want to be a great musician, you don't really need expensive plugins to make great sounds. Holy shit, look at